this video, I will be talking about the requirements for spouses who are wishing to work in Canada and the differences between an open work permit and a work permit. You may ask yourself, how can my spouse work in Canada? This is a very good question, and it is very important for you and your spouse to know the requirements that are needed of you in order to start working in Canada and which work permit you can apply for. For inland spousal sponsorships, the process is actually within 2 stages. The first stage is when the immigration officer determines if the partner can actually sponsor their spouse. If the application is approved, then the immigration officer will then analyze the foreign spouse's admissibility to Canada. At this point in time in the inland spousal sponsorship application, if the first stage is complete, then the spouse may be able to apply for an open work permit. For any individual who holds an open work permit, they are actually permitted to work anywhere in Canada for any Canadian employer. Additionally, it is also important to note that if you are self-employed, you can do so in Canada as well with an open work permit. The good thing about this is that when applying for an open work permit, you can actually do so while your permanent residency application is being processed. In most cases, the immigration officer will inform you ahead of time in case you can actually apply for an open work permit. And if you are in a time-sensitive matter, you can actually apply for the open work permit in the first stage as well. For overseas spousal sponsorships and their work permits, unfortunately, after the first stage does not guarantee that you can apply for an open work permit. The sponsored spouse that is currently living outside of Canada can apply for a work permit. However, they do have to abide by the general eligibility requirements. For work permits, the sponsored spouse must have a valid job offer from a Canadian employer before they can apply for a work permit. In most cases, the employer must also have a positive labor market impact assessment, which is also known as an LMIA, before they can apply for a work permit. On the other hand, if you take into consideration the sponsored spouse's age, language ability, education, work experience, etc., they can also apply through express entry. For instance, they can apply through programs such as the Federal Skilled Worker Program, the Federal Skilled Trades Program, or the Canadian Experience class. For any spouse that is applying for a work permit, they must keep in mind that any work permit is given temporarily, and they must have an intention of leaving Canada after their temporary stay. Therefore, an immigration officer that realizes that the sponsored spouse may not leave after their authorized period may refuse their application as a result. In order to prevent that from happening, the sponsored spouse may acknowledge and address dual intent. Dual intent means that it is possible for you to get a temporary resident permit in the same time as waiting for your permanent residency application to process. However, if this does not successfully work and the temporary resident visa is refused, then this will not affect the permanent residency application. There are other circumstances where a work permit can be issued. For instance, if you are currently authorized to remain in Canada through a work permit, a study permit, etc., you actually may be able to get your spouse a work permit as well. Of course, it is very important that you are still eligible and authorized to stay within Canada while your spouse is applying for this work permit. However, as previously mentioned, your spouse still has to have a valid job offer from a Canadian employer before they apply for a work permit. If their work permit is successfully approved, then the validity time of their work permit will be for the same period as your authorized stay in Canada. It is important to note that individuals who are currently on a study permit here in Canada and are authorized to stay within Canada can have their spouses come over on an open spousal work permit, which is extremely beneficial. If you would like your spouse to work in Canada and they would like to apply for a work permit or an open spousal work permit, then I would definitely suggest calling us at 416-477-2545 for more information. Here at Akrami & Associates, we've dealt with many immigration matters and can definitely help you out with your work permit application. With Akrami & Associates, there's always a way.